Filipinos do not realize that Filipino culture is one of the greatest, I'm very serious about it. One of the greatest in the world. I am Philipp Delan Jr. I have been studying Filipino culture since the 60s. I've been to many parts of the Philippines trying to understand who we are and understand how Filipinos can be their better selves. At the very core, Filipinos are very highly relational people, wanting to connect all kinds of people in all levels, young and old, whether they are educated or not, from reporter to the richest Filipinos who like to bring people together. That's the very core of Filipino culture, a high degree of relationality, connectivity. This is to do with the philosophy of Kapwa. Kapwa means the other person is also yourself. The Filipinos believe that they have no separate existence. They're all one. That's the meaning of Kapwa. Every person's responsibility is not only to himself, but to others. That's why according to Claude Tayag, a culinary expert, our culture has no recipe for a single person. It's always a recipe for 6 to 10 people, because we expect food to be shared. That's why any chance upon the family is having dinner, you will always be invited to share the dinner with them. In a fiesta, even if you are not invited, you enter any house where there is food. Pakikipagkapwa is the basis of place, because in an individualistic culture, a person feels separate from others, and therefore there's no natural responsibility for everyone to serve. In a materialistic culture where people are confined to their physical selves, you don't see yourself connected to others. Because connectedness has to do with a spiritual belief, not that the Spirit of God connects us all to one another. So this is the very essence of Filipino culture. A culture of sharing, a culture that would like to bring people together. Our language has been with us since around 2,500 years ago. We were already Filipinos, even though we were not called Filipinos at that time. We were Afro-Natians. All our languages came from one island in Taiwan. And it's not Chinese, it's a Southeast Asian archipelago. A Southeast Asian place with at least 9 ethnic groups. The lone ethnic group there was our ancestors. This ethnic group went down from Taiwan to Batanes to this of Luzon, down to the Visayas, Mindanao, and Indonesia, Malaysia. So, the languages of Indonesia and Malaysia came from us. We even brought these languages to the Pacific, Micronesia, Melanesia, Polynesia, as far as Easter Island and Hawaii. When they brought these languages even to the west, in Madagascar, Africa. That's why if you go to Madagascar, Africa, they speak a language here in Ilocano, Tagalog, Kapampangan. It's called Malagasy. And that time alone, we were already highly relational because our language shaped us. We shape our language, and the language in turn shapes us. The Filipino languages are the most highly relational of all the Austronesian languages. We have the highest number of conjugations. How many conjugations are possible in English? The word to eat, eating, hate, eaten. What else? I suppose you can have at most 12 conjugations of one word or one verb in English, but not more than 12. What about kain, the Tagalog word for eat? In less than an hour, you can come up with 100 conjugations of kain. Kain na tayo, pakikain, eksikain, hapakain, palakain, ikain mo ko, nakainan. So many, no? So what does it mean? That means you are highly relational from the very beginning. We're already highly relational because every conjugation is a kind of relationship. Magsikain tayo, all of us has to go together and eat, no? O ikain mo ho, do the eating for me, that's another kind of relation, no? Napakain, well I was compelled to eat because others were eating, that's another kind of relation. As every conjugation is a relationship. Also, another thing, look at our languages. It has very fine nuances for relationships. I don't know of any single word in English that refers to a group action, a verb, like magsyllabus, all of you go out, magkainan tayo, together let's eat. Well, I don't know any word in English. Any verb in English that refers to a corrective action. This corrective action, that means this is highly relational again, and that's in the language, so much in the language. Nagkainisan, magkasingganda, magkasimpangit, when you're magkasingganda, you're equally beautiful, but magkasimpangit, you're equally ugly. There's no translation in English. It's verbs, adjectives, that are mutually reciprocal, connecting people to one another. There's none of that in English as far as I know. So we can see our relationality in our language, but we can also see it in our geography. People say that we're a divided country because we're an archipelago, but the truth is really different. People who live in a landmass rather than archipelago will even be more divided if this landmass is so mountainous. A mountainous area that is of just one landmass is where people will be so extremely divided. Because it's mountains that divide. How can you easily go from one side of the one to the other side of the one? It may take you days before you can go to the other side. But people in a short time learn to cross from one island to the other through water. Especially because our origin from Taiwan, we really cross islands. And our ancient prowess in maritime navigation really made us very, very skilled in water. The Filipinos all over the world were master navigators on the sea. So, if you go to the Philippines, you will find that any two islands separated by water will speak the same language. Because we are connected by water and divided by mountains. Look at Negros. Negros is divided by Mount Canlaon. The side that faces Iloilo speaks Ilonggo. The side that faces Cebu speaks Cebuano. Masbate, the one that faces Leyte Samar speaks Waray. The one that faces Bicol speaks Bicolano, and so on. This is true anywhere in the country. If two islands are separated, they are more unified. So it's not true that you are divided because we're an archipelago. In fact, we are more united because of being an archipelago. And so, because of our highly relational culture, our creative genius was able to flourish within the traditional Filipino cultures. And that's because in traditional cultures, the sense of community is very, very strong. This is the norm in all of our traditional societies. If there is a very strong sense of community, you feel more relaxed. You don't feel any tension, no. Now, the more relaxed you are, the more open you are, the more you are you, the more you can bring out who you really are. You become more expressive. You become more artistic. You become a natural artist. That's why in our traditional cultures, everybody is an artist. Almost no exception. No matter what the work is of a person, you can be sure that he's doing some kind of art. Why? Because the more close you are to one another, the more you would like to understand and do what others can do. If you are very close to the farmer, you will learn farming. If you are very close to the carpenter, you will learn carpentry. You are very close to the albularyo, you will learn traditional medicine. If you are close to your mother, you will learn how she cooks. So closeness to one another makes you learn so many things as you grow up. This is the reason why the Filipinos are so versatile, multi-talented, simply because when you are one with the community and you like to relate to everybody, you have to know what others are doing. How can you be so close if you are only a very narrow specialist? For example, I can cite the example of Samao Suleiman, who was one of the awardees for the National Living Treasures Award in the Philippines called Banilikanang Bayan. Well, just like any male in Maguindanao society, or even Phoebe, I was everybody can pray the Kutiapit, but Samao Suleiman happened to be the best. But do you know that he is not only the best in that instrument, he's also the favorite barber in his town. And also a Muslim imam or a priest. But he was also a very good barber. Because he grew up in such an environment where everybody is multi-skilled. And if you are really so relaxed, you can easily learn other skills. Because irreliable difficulty learning anything if you are doing it in a spirit of play. In a spirit of play, everything becomes so easy. That's the reason now. Our sense of community, which makes us very multi-talented. My Filipino dream is for Filipinos to be educated in their culture. Filipinos do not realize that Filipino culture is one of the greatest in the world because of the philosophy of Kapwa. If we are one, we have a shared responsibility for one another. This is a very profound philosophy. The shared responsibility is not dog-eat-dog attitude, it's the survival of the fittest, it's not ruthless competition, it's cooperation, collaboration, harmony. Iyan how the world has survived, how humanity has survived. According to antibodies, we have survived because of cooperation rather than competition. That's the way of life. If there's no harmony on earth, no species would have survived. We have to emphasize that. But our culture is based on cooperation, harmony, Bayanihan, doing things together for the common good. This is who Filipinos are, but Filipinos don't realize this. The more we realize it, the better for not only us, but the better for the world, because we can promote our culture everywhere. And we can be very proud of being Filipino. Now, the Filipinos are not very proud of who they are, simply because they don't know they are. Secondly, I like Filipinos to discover how different we are from one another. The first one is how we are one, no? The second is our diversity. We have at least 131 languages in this country. Because the older a society is, the more languages it has. A young society will not have its own language. Singapore, Australia, Canada, they still use English or French, because they are new societies. That means if we have 131 and we get that means we are a very old culture, well, at least 50,000 years old. We are a new nation, but we are a very old people. If we have 131 languages, that means we have so many different cultures. This basic subject that I wished Filipinos to learn, aside from the concept of Kapwa, how we are one, is how rich we are in terms of cultural diversity. Knowing all kinds of Filipinos and their cultural genius. This is the best way to make the Filipinos proud of themselves, because the more Filipinos know about Kapwa, and the more they know about this diversity, how rich they are, the more they will love the country. And they will no longer fight against one another. They will have a strong sense of identity. They will know that all Filipinos are one.
Our culture is more than tradition. It is a legacy carried through generations. But what does it truly mean to be Filipino? To answer this, we must look beyond what we see and dive into the essence of our identity. What does it mean to be Filipino? Is it our love for bold, flavorful cuisine? Is it our passion for basketball, so strong that we play even in flip-flops? Or is it that surge of pride we feel when we see Filipinos shining on the world stage? Maybe it's something much deeper. Maybe it's our shared language, though with over 170 distinct dialects, we don't truly have just one. Some say it's the color of our skin, but Filipinos come in many shades. It used to be about geography, but today, millions of Filipinos are spread across the world, forming one of history's largest diasporas. So if we really want to know what it means to be Filipino, we have to go back in time. Thousands of years ago, one of our earliest ancestors, the Austronesians, mastered the seas. While other civilizations were inventing the wheel, the Austronesians were already using the ocean as their highway. Over 5,000 years ago, they developed advanced sailing technology that led them to a vast new land, the archipelago that would one day be the Philippines. They crafted boats called balangays, which became their vessels for exploration. And within these boats, early Filipinos thrived as a community, navigating, fishing, rowing, steering, working together to survive. They were quite literally all in the same boat, and that spirit of unity and cooperation became deeply embedded in our culture. That's why today, a small community in the Philippines is still called a barangay, a name that traces back to the barangay boats of our ancestors. This shared responsibility evolved into what we now call Bayanihan, a concept deeply rooted in helping others without expecting anything in return. Derived from the word bayani, meaning hero, Bayanihan is about Filipinos becoming heroes for one another. Throughout our history, from wars to natural disasters, it has been the Bayanihan spirit that kept Filipinos standing strong. Even today, Bayanihan lives on, in the archipelago and in distant foreign shores. Think about it. Why do so many Filipinos choose jobs that serve others? Why are we one of the most hospitable cultures in the world? Why do we celebrate Christmas, the season of giving, for 4 whole months? Because deep in our hearts, the Bayanihan spirit never fades. It is forged into us, a gift from our ancestors, carried wherever we go. So, what does it mean to be Filipino? If history has taught us anything, it means to care, to share, and to love. To love our families, our neighbors, and our communities. Because no matter where we are in the world, we are one people, on the same journey, on the same boat. The Filipino story is not just about history. It is about the beauty that surrounds us. From the resilience of our people to the wonders of our land, the Philippines holds a beauty unlike any other. Let's explore the soul of our homeland. The beauty of the Philippines is often portrayed through iconic postcard locations. The breathtaking Banaue rice terraces, the pristine 100 Islands National Park, the historic charm of Vigan's cobblestone streets. But when you ask travelers what they find most beautiful about our country, many would say it's the people. The warmth, generosity, and hospitality of Filipinos have left a lasting impression on visitors from around the world. It's a defining characteristic of the Philippines. But what inspires this beauty? To understand, we must first look at the origins of our land itself. Millions of years ago, a series of tectonic collisions and volcanic eruptions gave birth to an archipelago of over 7,600 islands. Nature's gift to us, blessing us with wonders like the white sands of Boracay, the dramatic limestone cliffs of Palawan, the world-renowned surfing paradise of Siargao. Some places even defy imagination. A crater filled with water, containing a lake inside an island, in a lake, inside an island. And here stands Mayan, the most perfectly cone-shaped volcano in the world. But the Philippines' natural beauty isn't just found in landscapes, it's also in its rich biodiversity. Home to the majestic Philippine eagle, thousands of species found nowhere else on Earth, and the very heart of marine life, the global center of marine biodiversity. But what does the beauty of our land have to do with the beauty of its people? In the Filipino language, the word bayan means both country and community. Our identity is deeply tied to our homeland. Like the collision of tectonic plates, Filipinos are a blend of diverse cultures, ethnicities, and beliefs. Yet we are united by shared values, history, and resilience. Like the fertile soil enriched by volcanic eruptions, Filipino optimism shines brightest in adversity. And at the core of our culture lies Kapwa, a value that sees everyone as part of the same family. Kapwa is why we welcomed refugees from Jewish, Russian, and Vietnamese communities in times of crisis. Our soldiers fought and died for other nations in the Korean War. We treat strangers as family, calling them ate, kuya, or tito and tita. It's why Filipinos offer food before asking your name, why we give up our beds for guests, and why, no matter where we are in the world, we carry the spirit of home with us. So if you're looking for the true beauty of the Philippines, you don't have to look far. It's found in the heart of every Filipino, not just in the Philippines, but wherever there's a Filipino in the world. But beauty is not just in the places we call home. It's in the hearts of those who carry the Filipino spirit wherever they go. The world may change, but one thing remains constant: the Filipino heart of gold. The beauty of the Philippines is often portrayed through iconic postcard locations: the breathtaking Banaue Rice Terraces, the pristine Hundred Islands National Park, the historic charm of Vigan's cobblestone streets. But when you ask travelers what they find most beautiful about our country, many would say it's the people. The warmth, generosity, and hospitality of Filipinos have left a lasting impression on visitors from around the world. It's a defining characteristic of the Philippines. But what inspires this beauty? To understand, we must first look at the origins of our land itself. Millions of years ago, a series of tectonic collisions and volcanic eruptions gave birth to an archipelago of over 7,600 islands. Nature's gift to us, blessing us with wonders like the white sands of Boracay, the dramatic limestone cliffs of Palawan, the world-renowned surfing paradise of Siargao. Some places even defy imagination. A crater filled with water, containing a lake inside an island, in a lake, inside an island. And here stands Mayan, the most perfectly cone-shaped volcano in the world. But the Philippines' natural beauty isn't just found in landscapes. It's also in its rich biodiversity, home to the majestic Philippine eagle. Thousands of species found nowhere else on Earth. And the very heart of marine life, the global center of marine biodiversity. But what does the beauty of our land have to do with the beauty of its people? In the Filipino language, the word bayan means both country and community. Our identity is deeply tied to our homeland. Like the collision of tectonic plates, Filipinos are a blend of diverse cultures, ethnicities, and beliefs. Yet, we are united by shared values, history, and resilience. Like the fertile soil enriched by volcanic eruptions, Filipino optimism shines brightest in adversity. And at the core of our culture lies Kapwa, a value that sees everyone as part of the same family. Kapwa is why. We welcomed refugees from Jewish, Russian, and Vietnamese communities in times of crisis. Our soldiers fought and died for other nations in the Korean War. We treat strangers as family, calling them ate, kuya, or tito and tita. It's why Filipinos offer food before asking your name, why we give up our beds for guests, and why, no matter where we are in the world, we carry the spirit of home with us. So if you're looking for the true beauty of the Philippines, you don't have to look far. It's found in the heart of every Filipino. Not just in the Philippines, but wherever there's a Filipino in the world.
Watch Tagalog Kurt express his love for the Kapwa love and mentality with Filipinos.
Insight into how someone thinks, about how someone feels about something, because the way that they use their language is unique to them. There's a new level of beauty and experience at participating in and with a culture that comes through learning its language. So I would encourage anyone, if you have the drive and the desire, it's definitely doable. It takes practice and it takes some embarrassing times, but it'll come and you'll be appreciative for the rest of your life because you took the time to do it.
Kahit sa mahabang panahon na naging sundalo ka, anong pinaka-challenging na experience mo sa pagiging sundalo? Ay, nako.
Siyempre sa serbisyo ko sa Marine Corps, marami akong nakikitang masamang bagay.
Ano dapat gawin alam mo na maraming masamang bagay dito sa mundo?
Kung anong kaya mo. Yan talaga. At nag-decide ako pagkatapos lumawas na ako sa Marine Corps na gusto kong talagang mai-focus sa kabutihan. Yan ang dahilan kung bakit dito ako sa Pilipinas. Kasi,
bakit dito? Ang dami naman bansa sa buong mundo. Bakit dito?
Yung sabi ko sa mga tao, at siguro narinig nyo ito sa mga ibang dayuhan katulad ko, iba talaga yung Pilipinas. Yung mga ibang bansa, meron din silang masarap na pagkain, mga architecture, pero dito lang sa Pilipinas, ang mga Pilipino.
There's something different about the Philippines. I only learned how to properly describe that a couple of years ago upon stumbling on the definition for Kapwa. Kapwa is kind of this sense of belonging that's really, really unique to Filipino culture. And it's a sense of belonging because of a shared history, a shared identity, shared language, shared culture. And it's this sense of community that we don't get back in America. Even as a non-Filipino, you feel it. And you fall in love with it. And it's really, really addicting. And I think that's why the Philippines see so many foreigners come here and they just say, I love the Philippines. I love the Filipino people, because it really is the Filipino people that makes this place unique and special amongst all the nations of the world. My love for the Filipino people is just, there's so much in my heart that the Philippines occupies. It was the first country I ever visited other than my own, the first language I ever learned other than my own. It accepts you just as you are, and the sense of Kapwa is felt deep within. You feel at home, you know? When you come from a Western country where you're taught just rugged individualism, you know, be your own person, you're responsible for your success and your happiness, and you walk through the barangay and it's just the most... It's the most beautiful people I've ever interacted with. And despite hardships, despite poverty, despite, you know, all of these things that could break a lot of people, I've never met a happier group of people ever in all of my world travels. When I'm walking through the barangay, I feel like I'm at home because people talk to you like you're a friend they haven't seen for, 42 years. I feel right at home there. I've never felt unwanted or outcast. It's people always wanting to come up and practice their English, even if it's a few words. It's this sense of community.
Join Katrine de Kuya as she shares her inspiring journey through the spirit of Kapwa.
Fell in love with the people right away. It was exactly like how your film showed it, like you're invited somewhere as a guest and then you're invited to sleep in the host's own bed while the host sleeps somewhere else. Wow, Germans don't do that. You guests, you sleep on the floor. It's really these differences, no? But then what I really loved was the street food. turon and suman and fried bananas and boiled kamote and all these things, so yummy. And then when I met my husband's mother, she was such a lovely person. The only thing I didn't understand about her was why she powdered her face. She was beautifully kayumangi, and then every morning she covered it with this crust of white makeup. I literally cried. I said, why? Why does she do that? She's so beautiful. Beautiful face, beautiful eyes. And then she covers it all up just to fit this American model. Really, really, really affected me that Filipinos would hide their own beauty like that. So my interest in knowing the beauty of the Filipino grew even more. And then later on, when our youngest son was 4 years old, I started to enroll in school because already by then it was quite clear that my husband was always on the move as a filmmaker. He was always busy, and somehow I thought with so many artists in my family, I'll just become a psychologist. That was my second love. So I went back to it, and that's when I learned about Kapwa, the beauty of the Filipino. The way it came to this PhD was that I had this indigenous professor, Dr. Vera Enrique, who came up with this Kapwa philosophy and with this whole theory. And he had a master class. He held it in Tagalog. I couldn't speak Tagalog, but I understood everything. You don't need to understand a language to understand a person. So that's how I was encouraged to study Filipino psychology. And I did it swimming against this stream, against this Western terrible framework that cuts out anything that's essential to Philippine people. So I was the first, and I think up to now the only PhD in Filipino psychology. Nowadays, everybody squeaks through because it's easier. You don't have to fight all the time. But for me, I was determined only to study what I was interested in. And that led to the writing of this book, and then it led to the publishing of this book and to several conferences on Filipino psychology and indigenous people and artists. It's just this whole spiritual, non-material side of the Filipinos. That is what fascinates me. That's what's so worth keeping alive. And I think it's great. Once you learn about Kapwa, you see it all over Filipino culture. Something that made me feel a little bit shy in the beginning, when you sit in a bus and you sit there squeezed pretty tightly beside somebody, and then they eat chicharon or a little bit of peanuts, and then they offer you. And in the beginning, I didn't know how to behave, So I ate actually. And then they offered me more, and I ate more until I realized it's the gesture. Filipinos will offer you everything and anything they have, but it doesn't mean you should actually take it. So I felt again, what should I do? So there are lots of learning like that, but that's also the spiritual, non-material side of the Filipinos. That is what fascinates me. That's what's so worth keeping alive. And I think it's great. Once you learn about Kapwa, you see it all over Filipino culture. Something that made me feel a little bit shy in the beginning, when you sit in a bus and you sit there squeezed pretty tightly beside somebody, and then they eat chicharon or a little bit of peanuts, and then they offer you. And in the beginning, I didn't know how to behave, So I ate actually. And then they offered me more, and I ate more until I realized it's the gesture. Filipinos will offer you everything and anything they have, but it doesn't mean you should actually take it. So I felt again, what should I do? So there are lots of learning like that, but that's also Kapwa. If you share your food, you share your energy. I was also amazed about how open most of the artists here in the Philippines were about what they did. Their techniques like whether Pandi Apiado or Bencab, All of them shared their technologies, their ways of doing things. German artists wouldn't do that. They would just show you what they do, but if you ask them, how do you do this? They would say, I would say not just because of contact with the Filipinos. There are really many ways. There are good people everywhere around this world, but Filipinos have a way of changing their partners, making them smoother, making them laugh more, making them less stressed out. So this is extremely important. And maybe that's what my professor always said. We Filipinos will re-educate the world. We will repopulate the world. We change everything. And this is just so beautiful. I just came here to make people happy and to serve. And for me, this is the essence of Kapwa and the essence of Filipino, people who live who they are.